Hello there. I'm a day late reviewing 1981's Scanners. I have to admit, it's probably been about 30 years since I've last seen this movie, but I have clear memories of when I first caught it back on HBO in the early 80s, and I thought it was pretty cool. So let's see if teenage me was right. Our film opens in a mall somewhere in Canada. Thanks to Amazon, you might not know what a mall is. It used to be where people would go to shop for things, see a movie, or just hang out with your friends. Anyways, the world's cleanest homeless person makes his way into the mall and over to the food court. Here he finds some leftover food and helps himself. Sitting nearby are a pair of women who are not impressed with his homeless behavior. He overhears them, and we find out that he isn't your normal homeless man, as he psychically causes one of them to have a seizure. Several onlookers rush to assist the woman. In the crowd are a pair of men in trench coats. They take note of the homeless man and head towards him. The homeless man makes a break for it and starts up an escalator when one of the trench coats takes out a gun and shoots the homeless man with a tranquilizer dart. Rather than take the dart out of his hand, the homeless man continues to flee, but eventually passes out, and his unconscious body comes up to the top of the escalator to be taken by the waiting trenchcoat men. Our homeless man wakes up sometime later. He's wearing what appears to be a posy restraint vest, and yet his hands and legs are free, so I don't know what the point is. He's in a large room with a number of empty chairs nearby, and he is approached by an older man with a beard, who we find out is Dr. Paul Ruth. Dr. Ruth, not to be confused with the more famous Dr. Ruth,
that it's perfectly all right to get erections.
Dr. Ruth knows who the homeless man is, and quite a bit about him, including,
"You're a scanner, which you don't realize."
This is our protagonist, Cameron Vale. Dr. Ruth then has several dozen people enter the room and have a seat. None of them are talking, but Vale hears an endless sea of conversations going on and starts to writhe in the bed, unable to take all the noise. An uncertain amount of time later, Dr. Ruth returns and gives Vale an injection. Almost immediately, the voices fade away. We then cut away to a building with the name Consec out front. We are about to see the scene that grabbed everyone's attention and shocked moviegoers back in 1981. A man is going to give a demonstration of scanning. As it turns out, what the man describes sounds like telepathy, the ability to read minds. He asks for a volunteer, and most of the people are hesitant, but we eventually get a volunteer. Holy crap, it's a young Michael Ironside, back when he still had a full head of hair. The volunteer sits next to the scanner, and we hear a high-pitched whine to let us know that scanning is going on. Pretty soon, we see the volunteer make some faces as if he's concentrating, and the scanner begins to look like he is in distress. They then look like they're in a battle of wills, and the scanner loses and his head explodes. Still quite graphic and shocking to this day. Security grabs the volunteer and drags him into a stairwell and orders a doctor to give the volunteer a shot of medicine called Ephemeral. As we will find out later, the drug is supposed to dampen the ability to scan. The volunteer scans the doctor and has the doc give himself the injection of medicine instead. Good thing none of the guards were watching where the doctor was giving the injection. It's not like their lives depend on it or anything. The volunteer goes somewhat limp, and we cut to a pair of cars transporting the man somewhere. He uses his powers to cause the backup vehicle to run into a wall and explode. The idiot drivers of the first car decide to stop and see if they can save their co-workers trapped in the fiery blaze. The volunteer then scans the one guard smart enough to keep a gun on him and has him shoot the other two guards that got out of the car. The guard then turns the gun on himself. We cut back to Consec a day later. The head honcho is explaining to the room full of staff that their introduction of scanners to the world last night was a huge failure, and he then introduces the new head of security, Braden Keller. Keller says that he wants to cut funding for the scanner program, that it's a bunch of hooey. Dr. Ruth asks Keller how someone got into the demonstration last night and ended up killing 6 people and getting away. Keller admits that the man was a scanner. Ruth says there you go, success speaks for itself. Keller points out that Dr. Ruth's program knows of only 236 scanners in the world, and none of those are working with Consec now, since the one they had was killed last night. Dr. Ruth says that he believes there is a rival organization, some sort of scanner underground that is competing with Consec for control of scanners. He believes that this underground is being run by the assassin from last night, one Daryl Revok. Keller says this is nuts, that scanners can't stand to be in the presence of other scanners, and all of them are socially maladapted. Dr. Ruth says that this is because most scanners don't understand their powers. He wants to find one and train him to use his powers and then have that scanner infiltrate the underground. The head honcho says that Consec was attacked last night and that something has to be done about it. Dr. Ruth says that he might have the man for the job. Later, Dr. Ruth meets with Vale and tells him about what scanners are and tries to convert him to Consec's cause. He shows him a film of a young Daryl Revok who doesn't come off very stable.
I mean, if that's the only way to...
No! What do you know? You don't know nothing, do you? You want to see if I get in? Anyway? You want to see if I get in?
Dr. Ruth tells Vale that Revok has a list of all the scanners and he's been killing off all the ones that don't want to join him in his pursuit of destroying society. Dr. Ruth says that the murder of scanners is the great loss and that they can help bring about a greater glory for society. I have to admit, he is really vague about how this is supposed to occur. Next we get our one and only training sequence, which is admittedly one more training sequence than Rey received in The Force Awakens, but that isn't saying much. Dr. Ruth takes Vale to see a yogi. Yogis are people who can control their breathing and heart rates through meditation. Dr. Ruth wants Vale to make the yogi's heart beat faster. Vale begins to scan the yogi and slowly begins to make the man's heart beat faster, and then faster and faster and faster until he almost kills the man. Dr. Ruth is about to inject Vale with some ephemeral when Vale breaks the link and the yogi's heart rate slows. And with that, Vale is now a scanner master.
You were right, Dr. Ruth. It was easy.
Well, at least that wasn't weird.
Cut to a bit later. Dr. Ruth is giving Vale the lowdown on one Benjamin Pierce, the only known scanner that might be involved with Revok. He has an unstable personality, but the hippie psychiatrists of the day think he's better now thanks to discovering the healing powers of sculpture. Dr. Ruth wants Vale to find Pierce and see if he can then be able to get into contact with Revok's underground. So Vale travels to Pierce's studio apartment/cabin in the woods to talk to Pierce. Art may have helped him, but he is still wound pretty tight. Vale tells him that he needs to meet with Revok, that only Revok can help him with the voices in his head. Pierce isn't buying it and decides to leave. Unfortunately for him, a kill team is waiting for him and put him down. Much slower than they should, considering that the man is a scanner and in theory can kill them with his mind. So it's up to Vale, and he does so out of line of sight, which is interesting to know. Vale then goes over to the dying Pierce and they share a mind meld, and Pierce tells Vale to find one Kim Oberist. So Vale tracks down Oberist. How I don't know, he just shows up at a house that is apparently a scanner commune and she is there. Pretty soon they have the scanner version of an orgy or drug trip.
Until they become one mind, one system, one soul, one experience.
Which would later turn into...
We are the Borg.
More of Revok's goons show up and they spoil the party. I find it interesting that they had to kill 2 people first before the scanners noticed what had happened. Also, I find it kind of stupid for the assassins to stop shooting and thus giving the scanners time to defend themselves, which they do to lethal effect. The surviving scanners bail from the house and load up in a school bus, and then flee the scene. They don't get far before a van pulls up next to them and those inside open fire on the scanner bus, killing most of those inside. The bus crashes into a record store, but fortunately, Vale and Oberist survive. They head into the basement of the storeroom and hide. While there, Oberist bemoans the fate of her scanner faction, saying that it looks like Revok has won and that he is a nightmare. Vale says that it isn't too late, that the 2 of them can stop Revok. Just then, one of Revok's goons shows up, but once again doesn't start blasting away. This gives Vale time to scan the man. The man struggles to pull the trigger, eventually able to, but the shot goes wide and misses. He continues to scan the man, hoping to find some information on how to find Revok. The man pulls a vial of ephemeral out of his coat and shows that it was made at Biocarbon Amalgamate. So then we cut to the local Biocarbon Amalgamate manufacturing plant. We see people in biohazard suits. Amongst them, we see Vale in a suit pretending to be an employee. He sees someone go up to the supervisor's office, and we see that Revok is signing off on some paperwork. They then leave via another exit, and Vale goes up into the office. Apparently this was back in the day before security locks were in place to control access. There's a computer terminal in the office, and as luck would have it, it has some pertinent information pulled up on the screen just waiting for him.
Oh, how convenient!
Trying to get to the list of where the drug is going to be delivered, he runs into a problem. Access to that information can only be gotten from computers at CONSEC involving a program called RIPE. Vale then meets with Oberist, and he calls Dr. Ruth saying he needs to see him, that he has an informant on Revok. Ruth tells Vale to give him a little bit of time to arrange for someone to come and get them and bring them in. Ooh, helicopter. I guess I missed the helicopter landing pad outside of the diner that Vale and Oberist were at. They are met by security, and they take them into the CONSEC building. Dr. Ruth is going to talk with Vale while Keller is going to talk with Oberist. Man, who's the decorator at CONSEC? They didn't have any money for a fresh coat of paint for one of their offices? Anyways, while talking with Ruth, Vale says that biocarbon amalgamate is making ephemeral and appears to be run by Revok. Ruth is stunned. He founded the company back in the 40s and sold it to CONSEC decades ago. Vale says that there is a program called RIPE that is run by CONSEC, and it is managing biocarbon amalgamate, and that it appears that someone at CONSEC is working with Revok. Ruth is shocked by all this, and he says that he doesn't have any access to the CONSEC computer system, but that he does want Vale to scan it. Meanwhile, in another interrogation room, Keller tells Oberist that he knows that she isn't one of Revok's people. He wants to know what she is up to. She isn't talking, so he pulls a gun and threatens her, and she still won't say anything. Keller tells her goodbye and is about to kill her when she uses her power to cause him to fling the gun away and collapse to the ground, and then she leaves. Once he regains his senses, Keller sets off an alarm. Hearing the alarm, Vale wants to return to Oberist. Ruth says no, that they need to access the computer. Vale pulls away and goes in search of Oberist. Ruth wanders back to the interrogation room and starts to have a mental breakdown, mumbling about how the RIPE program needs to be stopped, that it was cold and cruel. Keller was passing by and sees Ruth rambling on, and so he kills him. Vale senses the death. A bit later, Oberist runs into Vale. She tells him that Keller tried to kill her, and Vale thinks that Keller must be working with Revok. They are then found by two guards that are about to kill them when they scan them. Both are reduced to tears, with one of the guards thinking that he almost killed his mother. Later, Vale and Oberist pull up at a gas station, and Vale calls the CONSEC computer from a payphone. Meanwhile, Keller is at CONSEC trying to get his computer nerds to access the RIPE program. The head nerd says that someone has reprogrammed it, and they no longer have access. Another nerd chimes in, saying that someone is tapped in right now and is downloading it. The main nerd pulls up the internal monitor and sees a list of doctors and patients and the cities that they are located in that are receiving ephemeral. Keller is horrified. How is this possible? You see, back in the late 70s, when this was written and filmed, most people were unaware of a little thing called the internet. My, how the times have changed. So the nerd tells Keller about the internet, and Keller wants to know if there is any way for them to stop the download. The nerd says that there is a self-destruct system that will blow the circuits on the mainframe, but they can only use it if there's a suspected breach of data, as if what is happening now isn't a breach of data.
Hello? Hello? Anybody home? Hey, think with fly, think.
If this is enacted, it would destroy all of the programs in the system and not just RIPE. Keller's cool with it, but the nerd has his doubts, saying he couldn't do it without the written authorization of the head of CONSEC. Keller pulls out his gun and he says, "Here's your authorization." Well, their nerd is no hero, and he says, "Yes, sir," and jumps to it. He activates the self-destruct, and after a short countdown, the circuits begin to pop. Since Vale is linked to the computer, he experiences pain, and he begins to fight back. The computers at CONSEC explode, injuring several of the computer nerds and killing Keller.
Excellent!
Later, Vale and Oberist arrive at the address of a nearby doctor that was on the list Vale downloaded. Oberist takes a seat in the waiting room while Vale goes to see the doctor. While in the waiting area, Oberist is scanned by the unborn child of a pregnant woman. Whoa. Vale returns after talking with the doctor, and it turns out that they are giving ephemeral to pregnant women. Oberist tells Vale that she was scanned by the unborn child of the pregnant woman in the waiting room, and the two realize that ephemeral is creating new scanners. Oberist is then hit by a tranquilizer dart. Vale pulls the dart out of her and helps Oberist out of the office, but Oberist received too much of the drug and slumps to the ground outside. Vale tries to rouse her when he hears a voice call his name. Standing behind him is Revok, and he shoots Vale with another dart. Cut to biocarbon amalgamate. Vale wakes up on a couch in Revok's office. Revok gets in a monologue for a bit and makes his pitch. He tells Vale that they are brothers and that Dr. Ruth is their father. It turns out that back in 1942, Consec tried a pilot program for a sleep aid for pregnant women. The drug, Ephemeral. The program failed due to side effects, most notably the creation of unruly children. But Dr. Ruth realized that these children were scanners because he had given the prototype drug to his wife and his 2 sons were old enough to voice what they were experiencing. Dr. Ruth convinced Consec to allow him to monitor the children affected, and so they bought his company and his services, and he has been monitoring the scanners ever since. Revok says that Ruth allowed Vale to live like a homeless animal until he needed him to find Revok. Revok wants Vale to join him. He has created a new generation of scanners that are months away from being born. He wants Vale to help raise them and to create an army and bring the world of normals to their knees. Revok says that he has been counting on Vale to help, and he wants him to say that he will. Vale hits Revok with a small sculpture from his desk, and now it's scanner war time. It gets rather graphic, and Revok for the most part appears to be winning, but at the last minute, Vale channels his reserves, and a peaceful look appears on his face, and he catches fire. Revok screams, and we cut to black. Oberst wakes up in the next room. She goes into Revok's office and finds the charred remains of Vale. She is shocked and saddened when she senses a presence.
Cameron?
Kim? It's me, Kim. Cameron. I'm here. We've won.
Turns out Vale somehow managed to transfer his consciousness to Revok's body. The end. And there you have it, Scanners. Now back in '81, I really dug this movie. Paranormal stuff was really big in the late 70s, and I was young enough to think, wouldn't it be cool if people could read minds or move objects with their thoughts? Obviously, I'm much older now, and I can see the flaws of the script. And it goes to show once again that you probably shouldn't begin filming a movie until you finish your script. But this isn't as rare an occurrence in Hollywood as it should be, often due to the pursuit of tax breaks. And Hollywood is notoriously cheap. Still, it seems to me that if you have a complete story and an idea of how to film it, your set would run smoother and possibly cheaper instead of having to make up things on the fly. But I don't work in Hollywood, so what do I know? I really like the sound editing in the movie. The multi-layer sounds of voices and sounds overlapping when someone has been scanned, the high-pitched whine, the susurrating pulse sound when a scanner is using their power. All very good stuff. And of course the practical effects are quite good. Also, Howard Shore's score is quite nice as well. So what are some of the problems I have with the film? Our hero Vale, for one. He gets one training session and now he's the master of his powers. Seriously? Anyone watching this ever master anything after 5 minutes of training? Well, I certainly haven't. And how do his powers work? When he hears the thoughts of other people's, is he reading their minds or just receiving what they are broadcasting? Because we get a scene of him taking some ephemeral to shut off the voices even after he has learned to use his powers and has been sent out on his mission. Now most of the time it appears that the scanner has to actively try and scan someone else to read their thoughts. So which is it? Is it an active or a passive power? And why does Vale agree to go after Revok? Dr. Ruth says that Revok is killing the scanners that didn't sign up for his cause. So why go anywhere near him? Revok is going to be able to read Vale's mind and know that he isn't there to join up. And at one point, Vale tells Revok that he sounds just like Dr. Ruth.
You sound just like him. Like Ruth.
So why again is Vale helping Dr. Ruth if he thinks that he sounds like our villain? And what the heck is Revok's plan? And why aren't there any other scanners in his organization? As far as I could tell, it's just him. Why would he want to create more if he can't get along with the ones that exist? And I don't understand why Revok doesn't just go to Vale once Keller told him that Consec is sending him out looking for him.
You sent your soldiers out to kill me.
Never you. I've spent years looking for you. I tried to take care of you, look after you, guide you to me.
If that is true, why send Assassin when Revok could have easily talked to him instead? Assassins with shotguns, no less. Shotguns are quite powerful, and not particularly accurate, in that the shot spreads out and can hit things other than your target. Look at this scene. It's a miracle Vale or Oberst wasn't hit. or killed in the ensuing car crash. And Revok says that he wasn't trying to kill Vale. And why didn't Vale scan Revok to see if he was telling the truth or not? Would Revok let him? Oh well, path's not taken. The movie was written and directed by David Cronenberg, best known for Videodrome, The Dead Zone, The Fly, and Dead Ringers. He's best known for body horror movies, and this is certainly a step in that direction. There's a bit of a stark appearance to the movie that seemed to be a popular thing back in the 70s. It starred Stephen Lack, Patrick McGoohan, Michael Ironside, Jennifer O'Neill, and Lawrence Dane. Lack is pretty stiff in his role as Vale, but the others do a pretty good job. It's rated R for graphic violence, and at the time, boy did it earn it. It has a runtime of 1 hour and 43 minutes, but it could probably use a little bit more time to set up and explain how scanner powers work. It had a budget of $4 million. It made $14.2 million, so it made a profit. IMDb has it at 6.7 out of 10, Metacritic has it at 60 out of 100, and Rotten Tomatoes has it at 67% per critics and 64% per audience score. So it seems to be thought of pretty much as okay, but not great. I myself would give it 5.5 out of 10. It has some interesting ideas, but they just needed to be fleshed out better. Once again, finishing your script before filming it seems like a good idea to me. Now, anyone wishing to read something that is better fleshed out might enjoy Dan Simmons' novel, Carrion Comfort. It too is about a world with a small number of powerful psychics and their conflicts, but it has so much more depth to it. As always, thanks for watching. Until next time.
It's one small step for man.
Now cut